Good morning, everyone. So thank you very much for joining us this morning to celebrate the 2023 Presidential Award for Distinguished Service in International Education. My name is Valeria Bertacco, and I serve as the Vice Provost for Engaged Learning. So we call the award PADSI, which is the acronym for Presidential Award for Distinguished Service in International Education, which takes very long to pronounce. So the PADSI Award was established in 2017 to celebrate and recognize the extraordinary effort of our faculty and our staff in advancing international education for our Michigan students. You all are very aware of how critical international education is in offering a well-rounded experience to our students. Each year, our institution offers hundreds of unique opportunities thanks to the work of our passionate faculty and staff who are dedicated in organizing all this very rich slate of opportunities. The PADSI Award recognizes two individuals each year, a faculty and a staff member. Our selection committee worked hard this year to identify only 2 award recipients among a pool of 16 that were extremely exceptional. Indeed, I wish to take this opportunity to acknowledge and thank the members of the selection committee for their work in reviewing and evaluating each nomination. You may remember, I hope you were here, a year ago we gathered to honor the 2022 awardees. It was a time when we celebrated the return to international travel and engagement. The year before, we had maybe 100 students going abroad after a difficult period of limited mobility. Rather than returning to business as usual, we as a community have relished the opportunity to assess the impact of our work and reimagine our future. Our student success study showed us that students who pursue educational opportunity internationally graduate at a higher rate and faster than their peers who do not. So spurred by this funding and motivated by the rebooting of international education post-pandemic, we as a community engage in a strategic visioning around 4 key initiatives: early awareness of international education opportunities, diversifying student participation and experience types, and supporting students both pre-departure and after their return, so post-experience. I want to thank each one of you who participated in that process, which led to the development of ambitious goals to significantly increase our participation in international experiences, especially participation by first-generation students, underrepresented students, and Pell-eligible ones. In the last year, we have seen a steep rebound in study abroad participation, with nearly 5,000 students going abroad. Compare that to the prior year, where it was about 3,000, and the year before that, as I said, there was 100. We are confident that our strategic plan and the commitment of the international education community across campus will help us continue to propel this number upward. And of course, our global engagement extends beyond education abroad. Schools and colleges have renewed interest in establishing and renewing international engagements to facilitate academic and scientific collaboration, student exchanges, visiting scholars, and beyond. So just in the past year, we executed 70 international agreements with institutions in other countries, bringing our total to almost 260 active agreements across the globe. Our faculty engage in over 1,000 research projects with at least one international collaborator. And almost 50% of our publication last year had a co-author that was affiliated with an international institution. And then finally, last year we had the largest cohort of international students on our campus to date, reaching 17% of the student body. So thank you to all of you for your effort in this work. I think we can say that our institution is truly global. So now, without further ado, I would like to welcome President Santaono. If you were here last year, you may recall that this celebration was one of his first public events. He had been with us barely 2 weeks, and we are delighted to have him back this year after almost a year of his experience on campus to recognize our awardee and celebrate with us in this energizing event. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? You're a great group. It's really wonderful to be with you this year, just like last year. I remember very fondly the award ceremony last year. Valeria, thank you for everything that you do. There she is over there. Let's hear for Valeria. As you've heard, it's a very difficult decision to choose two recipients out of a distinguished group. And so we are here to really celebrate Katie Lopez and Jody Laurie. Since its very inception in 2017, the PADSI Awards have celebrated the extraordinary efforts of members of our faculty and staff to advance international education for the University of Michigan. And it is very important, not only for the university, it's very important for me personally. As you know, I'm an international kind of guy. I was born in Canada from immigrant parents, and I've really benefited from different stops along the way in Japan and in the UK that have really enriched my life as a person, as a scholar. And that's what international education is all about. I can tell you that I was on a blue ribbon task force that was put together by the Governor General of Canada, and they made a major commitment to international education and student mobility because he felt that, having been educated in the U.S., that international education was critical to his success and also critically important for global peace and understanding of different cultures. And so what we are here to celebrate today, I think, is incredibly important. We need more global citizens today more than ever before. The international aspect of the University of Michigan is something which is a vital part of our heritage. The University of Michigan has been international for quite some time. And this past academic year, as you heard, more than 9,000 international students, along with 3,000 staff and faculty representing 124 different countries, make up this special community, the University of Michigan. So we are very, very global. And each year, thousands of, almost 5,000 or more, students are engaged in internationally focused education experiences through internships, intensive language immersions, and study abroad programs, as you heard. That's in addition to our countless classes and programs that in some aspects have an international focus. And international education teaches so much more than basic facts about a country. It teaches understanding and respect, resilience and adaptability, something that we need more than ever before. It teaches us to value others more deeply and to walk with them in respect and dignity. Through international education, we understand deeper and see further and reach higher as individuals and as an institution. For by better understanding our world, we can better serve our world. And in better serving our world, we will change the world for the better. That's why I'm so proud of University of Michigan as a leading international university. I'd now like to take some time to tell you more about our recipients of the 2023 PADSI Awards, the President's Award for Distinguished Service in International Education. I'll then ask each of them to join me on stage to share their perspectives and insights. The first award recipient is Katie Lopez. Let's hear for Katie. What a great round of applause for this early in the morning. Katie, as you know, is director of the Office of Global Activities at the School of Social Work, where she oversees the Global Activities Scholar Program, the Peace Corps Coverdell Fellows Programs, and the Visiting Scholars and Exchange Student Programs. I know how important your work is for the School of Social Work. As Katie noted in an interview with the University Record, quote, "I've grown up with the office in a way." After spending a summer in Tanzania where she volunteered with a local agency providing community care to those with HIV/AIDS, she enrolled in the master's program at the School of Social Work. She also joined the Office of Global Activities as a student worker and has served there ever since, rising to the position of director. Katie has consistently demonstrated a commitment to global education, community building, and social justice. She always strives to engage groups of students that may be marginalized or underrepresented, validating, lifting, and empowering them. Really quite the central core mission of a School of Social Work. Katie, thank you for your commitment, your service, and your leadership. We're proud to honor you today. Let's hear it for Katie. Please join me here.
Great. Thank you so much, President Ono. I'm proud and very honored to receive this award. It means a lot to me, given that I was nominated by many amazing colleagues who I really admire and look up to, as well as some of the former social work students that I've had the pleasure of working with. Well, I'm happy to be here. There's probably at least a few people who might be shocked that I'm receiving this type of award, because like so many of you, I had a transformative study abroad experience as an undergrad. So during my junior year, I studied abroad in Puebla, Mexico. Looking back, I realized that I probably caused a few headaches for the study abroad staff. So for starters, I petitioned my university to take a really interesting class I saw called Alpinismo, or mountaineering. I now understand that the slow response back from the university was probably because of the result of numerous back and forth exchanges with university lawyers about things like insurance, liability, safety. For the record, my petition was successful, and I got to spend some of my weekends scaling rock walls and climbing volcanoes. A few weeks later, I developed something called Bell's palsy. For those of you that aren't familiar, Bell's palsy is partial paralysis of the face muscles. So for about a month of my study abroad, the right side of my face, none of the muscles worked, at all. So again, I had to call the study abroad office to have them help me to set up neurology appointments and physical therapy appointments, all in Spanish. So I say all of this because, study abroad, as many of us know, doesn't happen with just one individual, right? There was a whole team of individuals that had to help me through these experiences and made it possible for me to have this transformative semester. During that semester, I learned so much about the larger world around me and about myself, and it drove me to the commitment to doing this work as a profession. I often joke with folks that sometimes I worry that the School of Social Work, someone there might wake up one morning and think and realize that maybe they don't actually need to pay me to do this work because I love doing it so much. So seeing that Dean Angel's here, I hope that doesn't result in an email on Monday that's a little bit unexpected. Speaking of Dean Angel, I think it's probably the perfect time for me to make sure that I recognize some of the folks that have helped me in the work that I've done and name them. So Dean Angel is the third dean that I've worked for in the School of Social Work. And all three of them have been enormous supporters of global activities for our social work students. Not only for outgoing programs, but also for our incoming exchange students, visiting scholars, and degree-seeking international students. Our global programming is actually one of the things that sets us apart as a school from some of our peers, and I don't take for granted the resources and support dedicated to making that a possibility for our community. In addition, I want to thank a few colleagues by name who are critical to building the global social work programming in the School of Social Work. I was fortunate enough to work for 3 different faculty directors, including Siri Jayaratne, Larry Root, and Mary Ruffalo, alongside field director Betsy Vashel. Without their leadership, vision, advocacy, and dedication, I couldn't do the work that I do today, and our students wouldn't have the opportunities that they have. Maybe even more importantly, their patience, guidance, and mentorship early in my career was a tremendous gift that I'm continuing to work to pay forward to others. And finally, there's some folks sitting up at this front table that I have to make sure that I thank as well. So thank you to my parents, Linda Oliveri and William Chenoweth, for saying yes when I wanted to study abroad in Mexico, when I wanted to go to the Philippines and do a service project. You've always been my amazing support system, even when you weren't exactly sure what I was getting into at this job. I also have to thank my in-laws who are here, Maria and James Lopez. I can't count the number of times that they were willing to jump on an airplane to come up and help my partner take care of our kids when I was traveling for work internationally. Without the 4 grandparents, I would not have been able to balance a family and a career. So thank you. Finally, I have to thank my partner, William Lopez. In addition to causing some headaches for the study abroad team, I'm also a study abroad cliche because Bill and I met while studying abroad in Mexico. So from the early days when he continued to hang out with me, even though half of my face was not working, to navigating the wonderful adventure that is parenting, even when I'm thousands of miles away, to now doing more than his fair share of the laundry, the grocery shopping, and the kid Uber pickups while I try and finish a dissertation, I'm exceptionally fortunate to have met him while studying abroad. Bill, you handle all of this with grace and dedication, all while doing your own amazing advocacy work within the School of Public Health. So thank you for everything. Finally, thank you to all of the wonderful international education community here at U of M. It truly takes a team effort to do this work, and I can't think of a better place to do this job. So thank you.
I'm now delighted to introduce our second award recipient, Jody Laurie. Jody serves as the Sarah H. and Robert B. Rothschild Endowed Professor of Global Nursing. She's also Professor of Nursing and Associate Dean for Global Affairs and Community Engagement in the School of Nursing. Jody's career path was cast during a service trip to Liberia. She went there shortly after a terrible civil war had concluded, decimating Liberia's healthcare system. Seeing a great need, Jody moved into compassionate action, working with a team to provide clinical providers on emergency obstetric care and encouraging care women to deliver at the healthcare facilities. Over the ensuing 2 decades, she has led innovative global education models through immersive field experiences, formal coursework, and the creation of a worldwide health minor and a graduate certificate in global health at the nursing school. Last year, under her leadership, the school's annual Global Health Summer Institute attracted more than 400 learners from 31 nations. Jody has also led intercultural experiences for undergraduates in Mexico and Guatemala, and working with undergrads and graduate students, she has improved maternal and newborn health in Liberia, Ghana, Zambia, and other countries. As Jody declared, quote, "Global health is a team sport. It is not something you do individually. It is interdisciplinary by definition. It is everything that healthcare should and could be. It's the best work in the world." Jody, thank you for the great gifts you've offered to so many and for the profound impact you've had on the world and the University of Michigan. Would you please join me? Let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you, President Ono, Vice Provost Bertacco, and all my colleagues across campus who share the passion with me for international education. I'd like to start out by saying that I think nursing and academia are the most rewarding professions in the world, but they are difficult professions. I want to talk a little bit about why I think Global opportunities are so important for nursing students. Nurses make up over half the healthcare workforce in the world. In the US alone, there are 4.5 million nurses working in every aspect of healthcare. This gives us unprecedented opportunity to support and transform our own healthcare system, but we can't do it if we're only exposed to one way of providing care. Historically, nursing students didn't have opportunities to participate in international education, similar to social work, because it didn't fit into their academic schedules. It's still not common for nursing students to have an opportunity to study abroad or observe healthcare in a completely different setting outside the United States. Like other professional schools, we have lockstep curriculum that doesn't accommodate students to do any kind of study abroad. Okay. When I came to Ann Arbor to teach in the midwifery program 20 years ago, none of our students were traveling abroad. But by that time, I had practiced as a nurse and worked as a midwife in other countries. So in my lectures, I often inserted examples from my travels abroad, especially about health equities, access to care, and population-based strategies or interventions to improve health. Students began to seek me out and ask how they could experience what nursing or midwifery was like in another country and in another culture, well, in their undergraduate and graduate programs. How could they fit it into their program of study? What did they have to do to make it work? It was their passion, their curiosity, and their tenacity that really started the movement within the School of Nursing. It started slowly with 1 or 2 students going abroad to pursue their dreams. And we've tried and tested, as my colleagues know, multiple methods from small groups to large groups, for credit, for extracurricular, for faculty support and led, or student-led. Some have been successful and some have not. I'd like to end by sharing some of the observations about how global immersion affects our nursing students and changes them. It gives students exposure to diverse cultures, giving them valuable perspectives that can help promote health equity for all people here in the United States and across the globe. It lets them explore their own views and the kinds of biases they hold. It gives them a deeper understanding of how a person's cultural background influences their health beliefs and their health behaviors. And they develop empathy for cultures with considerably fewer resources. They gain an understanding of hardships of not only individuals seeking care, but the challenges that healthcare providers face in other settings. They learn that a nurse is not a nurse is not a nurse. They have many different roles and scopes of practice throughout the world, and they discover really what the title of a nurse means in a global context. They also learn how to provide competent care with fewer resources, how to be more innovative in the workplace, how countries set up public health systems to care for large populations, the overlapping roles within public health systems and the differing roles that nurses, physicians, and community health workers have in other countries. It makes them question more, and there's a saying, once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. Global experiences build confidence and agency in students. It's for all these reasons that international education is important for a nurse's education, and it's helping us in the US develop a strong nursing workforce for the future. Thank you.
So thank you, everyone, and congratulations to our winners. We are now transitioning to the next part of our program. I would like to invite our panelists to sit on the stage. Yes, it can happen. And while we do that, I also would like to thank President Ono for joining us this morning. I know you have to leave in a few minutes, so thank you for being with us in this important celebration. So let me tell you a little bit of a framing for the panel that we are having this morning. So as many of you know, education abroad is widely considered a high-impact practice. Our research, the research by other institutions, has shown the students who participate in international experiences have increased intercultural understanding, and Jody just proved us right, broaden their worldwide views, become better contributors to diverse teams, and have stronger qualifications for future employment. Further, international experiences contribute to a student's sense of belonging. As I mentioned earlier, our analysis of our own student experiences has shown that students who participated in an experience abroad graduated at a higher rate than their peers. We also noticed that this trend persists across different identity groups, including underrepresented minorities, Pell Grant recipients, first-generation students, and STEM students. I know you would think what's different about STEM. They have a very prescripted set of coursework that they need to take, which make it extra challenging to fit credits from international experiences. And so all these experiences contribute to student success. So for all these reasons, our global engagement strategic plan aims to increase and diversify both the participants in international experience and the locations where these students go. This year, PADSI Award winners are trailblazers in these endeavors, and so we really hope to hear their perspective on this. They demonstrate extraordinary commitment to creating opportunities for diverse University of Michigan students to have meaningful international experiences across the globe. So on this note, I'm honored to share the stage with my colleagues Katie Lopez and Jody Lowry, who you just met and heard from them, and with Sandra Wiley, who is a 2019 PADSI Award winner. Sandy, for friends, I hope we can call you Sandy.
Yes.
Thank you.
Please.
She served as the Director of International Study Program in the STEM Schools of Art and Design. Sandy has more than 30 years experience in international program management. And U of M, she was a charter member of our International Travel Oversight Committee and the Council of Global Engagement. Also, you should know that the Stamp School of Art and Design is the only school in this university that requires that every student has an international experience before they graduate. You can just imagine the challenges and the benefits of that endeavor. So what we would like to discuss with our guests is the value in diversifying experiences and participation in international education. So I would like to ask a question to our awardees first, Jody and Katie. In your work, you have taken students to locations that are not often visited in traditional study abroad programs. Can you tell us more about your experience with students in Central America and in Africa? Why is it important to engage students' participation and experience in this region? What more can we do to create more such opportunities and encourage more students to go to these places instead of the more comfortable one like Canada, Europe, you know? Let's go.
So for me, taking students to Africa is one of the reasons is the greatest burden of disease is in low and middle income countries. And so for my profession, for midwifery, 70% of maternal mortality happens in sub-Saharan Africa. So for me, for students to be able to experience the kinds of challenges that healthcare providers face in other countries is really important to me. And it helps them to see how other providers work with fewer resources. It helps them understand the challenges that people have to access care in other parts of the world. It makes them more compassionate when they think about coming back to their own country and providing care here and practicing as a nurse, that I hope that it brings to them some sort of recognition that the privilege that they have in a country like the United States for healthcare, and also the challenges that many people in our own country face. I think it helps bring some of that to the forefront. It also helps them see that, you know, that you can work in very limited resources and still provide good care.
And make an impact.
And make an impact.
Great. Well, I think I'm going to build off of a lot of what Jody said. Over the years, we've had opportunities for students in places like Peru, Chile, India, Zambia, and Uganda. And I think our students that travel there get the opportunity to look at how social justice issues are being addressed in different places. And I think it's really important for our students because the work that social workers are trying to do and the challenges we're trying to address are really complicated. If they were easy, we would have already figured them out. And so we have to be looking to other places and for other models to think about how to do that. I think particularly non-traditional study abroad locations help our students to look beyond Western-centric ways of addressing these issues. And I think that that's really critical to what they bring back then when they're working here in the US or going elsewhere. I was thinking about this question, I was thinking back to some of the conversations I had with a student this summer who did a field placement in Chile. And she was working with an organization that works with Haitian migrants that are in Chile. And at the start of the placement, she was reflecting with me that the collectivist kind of mindset in Chile and within the organization and the consensus building that they were doing was really kind of slowing things down. It took them a while to kind of decide and start programs. And she was a bit frustrated by it. But I think by the end of the placement, she really realized the value that that consensus building had for making sure that programming was impactful, that the community was bought in, and that all the stakeholders were kind of interested in what was happening. And I think for all of us, we live in a really contentious world, in a very polarized situation. And I think that all of us can really benefit from having more lessons on how to effectively work across and through difference. And I think that the placements that our students have in these locations help them do just that. You asked what more can U of M do to kind of help make these things happen. I think we have to dedicate time, effort, and resources to building these opportunities. So many of the times that our students get to engage in these countries, it's through university partnerships. But despite our partners being super engaged and interested in doing the work, they're not always resourced the same. And if we don't spend extra time on our side to make these partnerships work, they just simply won't happen. So it can be addressing challenges like challenges to getting visas, to having less technology, less financial resources, to think about if we invite folks here, the cost of living in Ann Arbor is way higher often than the places that we're coming from. And so I think it's really important for us to recognize the playing field isn't even, but that we have a lot of privilege, and we have to think about how are we using that privilege to help us to make these opportunities possible for our students, because otherwise they'll miss out.
You both spoke about how transforming the experiences for the students have been. Do you do work after the student return to help them be able to express this, or it's natural, it just happened after that experience abroad, students come back and they can verbalize that?
We definitely, and I'm sure that you do the same thing, Katie, we definitely do debriefing, we meet with the students. We sometimes, if they don't have a faculty member with them when they're traveling abroad, if they're in a place that has electricity, we can Zoom with them while they're there so that we can talk about things and process things as they're happening. When they're with faculty, that's a different thing, and you can debrief every night after you come back from being in the field. But yes, we spend a lot of time, and I think it's really important to take that time and reflect, because when you're in the moment, sometimes you're not able to do that. But once you come back and you step back and you have time to process that and think about it, it becomes even more valuable.
Agreed. By the way, for the audience, I will have also time for you to ask questions. So let me just ask a couple more and then it's on you. So Katie, your work speaks to your commitment to diversifying the types of students who participate in study abroad and international experiences. What drives this commitment? Can you share a couple of examples of projects you led in this space? And again, what's advice for the university? What more can we do so that globally, wholly within our university, we can have more diversity of participation?
So I think I'm really driven by this commitment because of my commitment to social justice. And I'm fortunate to work in a school and with staff and colleagues, in a place where this is quite literally written into our mission statement, right? So President Ono said that. And I get to work at the intersection of my passion, right? Of looking at diversity, equity, inclusion, social justice issues within international education. In terms of thinking about these opportunities, I think we have to make sure that they're equitable for all students and available, but beyond that, we have to spend special attention and time kind of working with the students who might have more barriers than other students and to kind of work to address those. So some of the projects that I've been a part of, I think like many units on campus, we have a passport scholarship that allows us to cover the cost of a passport for a first-time traveler who's never been abroad before. So when they're applying to our programs, they don't have an additional cost compared to some of the students that have the benefit of traveling with family or before they came to the university. We've worked with our admissions and development teams to make sure that we're clearly identifying scholarships if they require that someone's a US citizen, that's noted, so that our international students and our undocumented students are aware of what scholarships are available for them, so they're not left out of opportunities or left wondering. One year after an information session, I had a student come up to me who let me know that she was undocumented and she was on something called DACA, or Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, but she'd heard that she could study abroad on something called advanced parole, and so she wanted to know more about this. Quite honestly, I knew nothing about it, but we spent the time to figure it out together, to look up resources and to allow her to apply for the process that made her able to study abroad in Mexico. And when she came back, we took time to document what it was the process was like, to get feedback from others that had done it, to put together a resource guide along with many other folks here at the university so that future students could do that. Unfortunately, DACA is pretty contentious right now, litigiously, but yes. It's something that we wanted to make sure to do. And then I can't help but plug one more thing that we're doing. So in November, the Center for Global and Intercultural Study, along with Spectrum and my office, will be offering a passport clinic for transgender and non-binary folks to get a passport. So it's important for them to be able to travel, but also for identity purposes, so they have a passport that has their name and their gender markers on it. And these are some of the things where we have expertise in things that can help folks in other parts of their life. So I think those are some of the examples. And asking about what more U of M can do, I think we really need to ask students and take their lead. Ask them what are the barriers and start to work to address those. They know. A few years ago, we did some focus groups with our DEI office with students that had been interested in study abroad but never actually applied to study abroad. And we learned from them what were some of the pain points, what were some of the barriers that we could then prioritize to address. We send messages to students that are first-time travelers to say, what is it that you need? Like, come to our office and let us know. I had a student who took me up on this one year and said, I'm going to bring my laptop. Can you just help me look at plane tickets? Come to find out, she'd never traveled on a plane before, and this was her first plane ticket that she was purchasing, right? And so she just wanted someone to look over her shoulder and reassure her before she put her credit card in and made this ginormous purchase, right? Beyond, I think, asking our students and listening to them, we just have to make sure that we ourselves are prioritizing this and not just sitting back and waiting for students to tell us what has to happen, but looking at our own processes. I think about, rebuilding after the COVID-19 pandemic, right? We're restarting a lot of programming. We in graduate education are seeing a lot of students who are very interested in studying abroad, but they haven't had the opportunity before. So if we continue doing application review in the same way that we have, we're going to end up perpetuating privilege. We're going to pick students that can write better essays because they've traveled abroad before, and not pick those that are super excited to go abroad but haven't had the possibilities. So I think we have to make sure that we're providing the supports, that we're asking students, but also that we're looking at ourselves and what we're doing and how we can change that work to make sure these opportunities are available for students.
Thank you, thank you. So Sandy, as I said, yours is the only school who requires every student to have an international experience.
Yes, can you see the fatigue?
If it was for me, it would be all the schools, but this is a university where requirement is not a good word. So what have you learned in overseeing this ambitious commitment in education abroad, and what are the challenges you face? And maybe you also can tell us what is the positive impact you have seen because all your students have an international experience.
Yes, so thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about this, because it is unusual for a whole school or college to mandate that students go abroad, and we're the only School of Art and Design in the country that does that as well. So I feel really privileged that our school is offering this to our students. And I think the first thing I want to say is that it's been very successful. Faculty announced that this would become a requirement in 2010. very bold statement as the U of M in terms of internationalizing many different disciplines, not just the typical LS&A disciplines, is very ambitious to announce it at that time. They hired their first staff member 2 years later, so implementing it was a challenge and continues to be a challenge. And I think that's a challenge across U of M in particular, because we're so decentralized, and figuring out how can we allocate resources to undertake ideas properly. It has been successful though, and CRLT, the Center for Research on Learning and Teaching, we worked with them for the first few years of the requirement, and that ended up in a published article back in 2019 that demonstrated it was having a positive impact on students compared to students who weren't mandated to undertake this international experience. And there was also growth in their intercultural communication skills as measured through the Global Perspectives Inventory. So I think that's the spectacular news, that it really is effective. And because it's required, all of our students, so however diverse our student body is, all of them are required to undertake this experience, which is really exciting for me, because the study also showed that about 20% of the students would not have done it if it had not been required. So built into that, we're already making sure that all of our students undertake this experience. Of course, this involves a lot of people across campus, and creating programs where the financial aid is portable, for example, so that they aren't losing whatever financial aid they're used to having here in Ann Arbor, that it still applies to their program abroad. Things like that are essential. Private donors have enabled things. We also have a passport scholarship. We're able to give additional funding to our students. Those things are all essential. Now that we've been doing it a number of years, I think we can do it even better. Of course, I have very high ambitions for what it could be, but I'm still hopeful we're going to be able to do this, because internationalizing the curriculum, really the best practices in the field are that you prepare students in the classroom before they go, and then when they get back, so that they have directed time, and it fits within the model of an educational institution where they're earning credit. They're doing this systematically so that they're more thoroughly prepared, and they have time to process how they have changed and what they might want to do because of that after they get back. And I'm very hopeful those things will happen in the next 10 years or so, but that's a whole big team effort to make that happen. But one thing that is happening, we have what I'm calling a pre-course that's we're gonna pilot it in the fall, and I'm calling it Demystifying Study Abroad. It's a one-credit class, but it will be offered once a week for students so they can build some trust in the instructor and just have time to reflect. But this is targeted in particular for students who may not have the cultural capital to really understand what is study abroad. How is it different than going on a cruise or just traveling somewhere? How will their financial aid work? How will this work in terms of their classes? And to just give students the time and space who need it to really embrace this opportunity. Maybe their family doesn't understand why it's required, and the student is being forced to explain something they don't fully understand. So one of the objectives is to make sure that students just have that time to really understand, this is how it fits into my curriculum, this is why we're requiring it, it will be affordable, but to just help students understand that. That was kind of a light bulb moment that I had where I realized we talk about study abroad and barriers to it, but what if the students really don't even understand what is that experience? So trying to break it down is something we'll start with in the fall.
Thank you. So my last question is about faculty-led programs. We find that faculty-led programs are especially good for having students who wouldn't think about going abroad because they trust their professor and they can go with their professor. So you, Jody, have a lot of experience in leading student groups overseas. How has that impacted you personally and professionally? And what do you think we can do to encourage more faculty to lead groups abroad, which is not very easy. There is a huge organizational aspect to it. So many faculty even ask us, like, how do we start?
Right. I think what it does for me as a teacher and as a professor is that I have been doing this kind of work for a very long time. And when I go with students, I'm often with students who are traveling for the first time. And they're seeing things that I've seen multiple times over for the very first time. So I get to see it through a new lens, and I get to see, it reminds me of why I started this work, because I think after you do this for a very long time, it's like any other kind of work, right? You fall into some patterns and you continue on that way. But when you have students with you, they look at things and they ask questions that you are taking for granted already, but you shouldn't. And so I get tremendous education, and it's very rewarding for me to travel with students. And I think you're right, it's very difficult to have faculty be able to fit this into their teaching, their service, their research. How can we make that more accessible for faculty to do? We have tried a number of different models. Some things work, some things don't work, and not everything works for everybody, right? So I think we have to do we have to look at individual programs, and what we want to do at the School of Nursing is we're looking at sustainability as well, right? So once we start with partnerships, we want to continue those partnerships over time, and so we want to have multiple faculty involved so that when someone leaves or they become disinterested or they get a grant and they can't continue on with this work, we still have faculty that continue in that role. So I think there are challenges, but I think there are definitely ways to overcome them.
Fantastic. So it's your turn. What are your questions? Joe, and then Matt, and then I think Judith. Yeah, go ahead, Joe. Microphone.
First of all, warm congratulations to both of you, and it's just really inspiring to see your good work recognized. Of late, there's a lot of dialogue, particularly in low and middle income countries, about how we're sending our learners from places of privilege to places that just don't have the resources, and it can be a bit of a one-way street. There's been calls to decolonize global health. Are there things that you're doing to try and bring value to the hosts and the people that we're dependent on to try and make a good learning experience for our students in country?
Sure. Yeah, so I think that's a really important point, and I think we have to be really mindful of that. And I think I alluded a bit to the fact that it's not always easy for folks to come this way, right? If we don't kind of think about what the challenges are and how it's maybe a different experience and cost for them. I think within the School of Social Work, we've established some scholarships with some of our lower resourced institutions. So where we have a model that the student covers a third of their cost, their home institution will cover a third, and we actually give them a scholarship as a non-candidate for degree students. So we're actually trying to build into it the recognition that there may not be as many resources for them. And so I think that's one commitment in trying to get some of the one-to-one exchange. I think sometimes we get caught up too in thinking that everything has to be exactly reciprocal means it has to be the same, and I think reciprocity can look differently. And so we had a partner in Chile that actually said our students, because of where they are in their life, they're often families and they aren't able to travel, but our faculty really want to have more support in publishing. And so I actually sent some faculty down to run some workshops for them on publishing and helping them identify which journals could they identify to publish in. And that was more valuable to them than trying to find one student who might be able to scrape together enough funding to come here. And so I think we have to think about these models of reciprocity differently. What is the value that we can add to them? What are they asking for? Rather than just what is value to us, and then can we replicate that for them? So I think that's maybe some of the answers, though I surely don't have them all.
Yeah, and I would just add something that I learned from my mentor and dear friend Tim Johnson, that it's good to have long-term relationships with people in different places. And so in my introduction, they said, you know, I started to go to Liberia right after the Civil War was over in 2004. So there's a history there, and there's a trust on both sides that we're there to support each other, that we're there to help each other, that we're there to make an impact and a difference in healthcare for people that live in Liberia. So I think that once that's established, that's a really important thing also for when we think about our programs, is how do we build in this longevity, this sustainability, so that you have trusting partners on both sides.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Matthew Bolton, School of Public Health. Again, congratulations to you both for a richly deserved award. Jody, earlier this year when the university awarded the Thomas Francis Medal in Global Public Health to Dr. Tedros, you spoke about bringing a human rights framework to your global health work. And I wonder if you could just say a little bit about what you consider key to instilling that same perspective in your students and other trainees in their global health work.
Thanks, Matt. So yeah, I do take a human rights approach to the research that I do, and I think the way that I would explain that for our students is that access to health care is a human right. Everyone has a right to be able to be seen, to have access, to have the care they need, to have the medicines they need, to have the treatment they need, the surgeries that they need. It shouldn't be a division between those that have the resources to pay for it and those that don't. As I said when I spoke earlier, why is 70% of the deaths in maternal deaths happening in sub-Saharan Africa? We know how to prevent women from dying in childbirth, yet it's not happening there. So that's what I try to instill in our students when they travel abroad, and they have experiences in places where they may go and see a mother die, a baby die, a young child die from something that's very preventable in the United States. And so just to instill that we need to make changes. And if they're not going to, we have been trying to make changes, but they need to continue to try to make changes so that everyone has equal access.
Thank you. Judith.
Congratulations, Katie and Jody. My question's actually for Sandy this morning. Could you speak more about that wonderful stamps requirement of study abroad and how it applies to international students, and if there's any special considerations, insights, advice that you have for that population as they go to participate?
Yes. Mm-hmm. So we do make one exception to our international milestone. If students, we don't do it by citizenship, but we do it by address. So if the student's permanent address is outside the US, they are not required to undertake the international experience. However, many of those students decide to do it anyway and are really excited that they get to go to an additional location because they're studying abroad in Ann Arbor for several months, years. And they're happy to go elsewhere on one of our programs where they can continue to take upper-level studio classes, things like that. So thank you for pointing that out. It's a really important population and one that is, I think, easier to reach out to than students who may not have traveled outside of the state of Michigan, for example. Maybe they're from the Upper Peninsula. Maybe they're from a rural area like where I grew up, where you just don't travel. Sometimes students are very excited about that and ready to explore the world, but other times there's a lot of reluctance because they haven't seen anyone else do it, and all of us need role models. So thank you for that question.
We have time for one more.
Yeah, we have a question here.
I'll be right there.
Hi, thank you both again. Congratulations on your awards. My name is Melissa Vert. I'm the Fellowship and Grants Coordinator at the International Institute. My question is, in regards to the diverse types of students that you receive going to these programs, I would imagine that it's phenomenal to bring people in who have very limited experiences, but they're also very talented students who may have more experience. I wanted to know, when it comes to assisting the University of Michigan students that come on these programs who have this diversity, how do you harmonize their there are opportunities when they're going on these programs for people who may have seen more than other students. How do you work within those parameters?
That's a very good question.
That means challenging question.
It's challenging.
I think I go back to I was a kindergarten teacher once upon a time, right? And differentiation was really important. You had kids that didn't know their ABCs and kids that were reading chapter books, right? I think if we treat all of our students as though they're the same, they're not, right? We know they're not. I think the challenge of implementing that and figuring out how to do it's really hard. I think we often have limited amounts of time with them. They've got lots of things that are kind of pulling their attention away, and so I think we're trying to do some of that work by helping students, process where they are and what they need to do and kind of think about. But I think, it's a challenge for sure. I think that, like Sandy said, if we've got a student that's never left the state of Michigan before versus someone that this is their 12th global experience, right? Their needs are really different. So I don't know that I have a great answer for you, but I think that for all of us, it takes thinking about, the folks that we work with as individuals and helping to help them get to the next level wherever they are. And I think one of the critical points too that I often see is we have to help those students that have had the ability to go abroad to remember that once upon a time they made a mistake and they thought about these things in simplistic ways, right? And so not to say like, oh gosh, I can't believe, so-and-so thought about the world in this way, but to say like, yeah, I too had that experience. I learned about how this, is different now, and to help them be peers to each other. And so it's not just based on us to do that work with them, but how are they sharing across with each other with what they've learned and not forgetting what they learned and the mistakes they made maybe initially.
Yeah, and I think we do that, we try to do that through our pre-departure workshops and things that we do with students. And again, each person brings a different strength to the table, right? So trying to pull out what those strengths are in each one of the students that are traveling and how to get them to work together as a group when maybe they didn't even know each other till they came together to go on this trip together. So I think it is challenging, but I do think that we do our best to try to make that work.
Thank you so much. Thank you to our winner. I'm delighted to have been here with you this morning. I learned a couple of things that we would like to do now. I probably will give you a call. Don't be frightened. and thank you for all of you who have participated today. I really hope I'm going to see you again next year. And thanks for the morning.